the first call I got was from my brother. Uh, Still, we're whatever old, in our 40s now, and he's like, "Hey, Valiant's starting up again." And I was like, "What?" I hadn't heard about it. I'm out of the loop, and
Yeah.
to this day, I'm kind of out of the loop in the industry. Unless my friends are doing something I don't know, you know.
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, yeah, they just relaunched everything, XO and Bloodshot," and I was like, "Oh, I'll check that out," because I remember in the 90s when they first launched, my brother was a huge fan of Valiant, and that was when 8 Ball was coming out. And I was like, "Man, I'm done. I don't want this. 8 Ball exists. I don't need superhero books," you know. And then
Yep.
he's like, "No, no, read Harbinger 1." And it was like Dave Lapham and like
Yeah.
at the very beginning, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm not sick of superhero comics. I'm just sick of like how they're being written right now. Like I need stories and character, and that it's not the genre that I don't like. It's
Stine.
just stories, you know." And so I remember loving it back then. I liked XO and Harbinger. I was still reading those because of my brother. Then he calls me up and tells me they're back. I was like, "Oh," but now I got an iPad, so I just download Bloodshot #1, first couple issues, and I'm reading those, and I'm laughing at them because they're so over the top violent. Like it's just like I can't believe it. It's just funny, you know. And I was liking them, and then literally a week later, I got a call from Warren Simons. I don't know if you
What?
know, but uh, he's like, "Hey, would you want to write Bloodshot Zero?" I was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, I picked up Mind Management, really loved it, and would love to see if you want to do uh, Bloodshot." I was like, "That's so weird. You call me out of the blue." Like my brother literally called me a week ago. I didn't know. I didn't tell him this. I didn't know that they had launched. You know.
Right.
But I had read Bloodshot Zero. It was the only one I had read yet. You know, or not Bloodshot Zero, but the series is what I had read first.
Yep.
And then I was like, well, "What happens in Bloodshot Zero?" I'm used to DC telling me kind of like, here's what we need to do, and here's the characters you're going to use. And Warren was like, "Well, we don't know what happens in it. We want you to write it." I was like, "We might get along, you know." But I had been coming off of the kind of like it was a frustrating creative experience, you know. And I was like, "I don't want to do this again. Work for hire. I don't want to do it." But I was like, I like Warren on the phone, and I was like, let's try him out. I'm gonna try him out on one issue and see how it goes, you know. Um, and then later it was like he was trying me out. Bloodshot Zero is me trying out for him. I was like, no, 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 that's not at all what it was. I was ready to quit at a drop of a hat. I would have quit. If you had been horrible at all, I was looking for an excuse to not do it, you know. But I wrote the first issue. It was great. They loved it. They let me do a variant cover and everything. And I was like, he digs my stuff. And then later he was like, "Yeah, I read some of your non-creator owned work." And he was like, "Ah, it wasn't, you know, it was kind of lukewarm." But then I read Mind Management. And I was like, "Oh, this guy I can write." And so he wanted me to take that and apply to the Valiant work.
Yep.
Um, and to me, that's the best way to get any work for hire stuff is establish yourself and your voice and who you are and what you do. And then it's like, I didn't have to change at all. You know, I'm like, it's a different character. And to me, that's just kind of fun to like be given a character and like, what would you do with it? I'm like, I was never a person who I have a Spider-Man idea or like a Superman story I want to tell. I never imagined. Part of it was just practical. It's like you're not paying me to imagine a story. I'm not going to imagine one. You know, I got plenty of stories I'm imagining. I don't need to. I don't need more stories. But if you ask me what an idea would be, I'm like, "Oh well, I'll think about it and then I'll get back to you."
Right.
And that's kind of what it was. It was like it was fun to be given an assignment and then try to come up with something.
Well, it reminds me of kind of when you talk about art school, because those are assignments, right?
Yeah,
And you have to go in and you have to be creative and figure out how to check your box and check their box.
yeah, no, exactly. And there's something fun and sort of a challenge to the create or the work for hire stuff that is like, how do I follow your rules, but in a way that seems like I'm breaking them, you know, like push it to the edge, you know.
Well, I think that that's something that's so interesting about that move, because I think your career to that point had been, I think, even structurally in comics, you're always looking, whether you're doing the panels at the bottom or you're hiding the page number or you're doing them on the side, or like you're playing with formats and you're figuring out how to kind of like push the edges of, it's like containing your creativity, right? And
Yeah.
so you're going to use the limitations to express your creativity. And then you're going into a highly structured environment, with the shared continuity. And I think the pivot in your mind of, oh, this is fun, this is like a puzzle, it's like a challenge that I'm going to solve. And sort of the solving is the creativity where I can sort of bend and twist and turn and play and scratch some of my itches, but also deliver what they need. And I also wonder if it doesn't come back to some of your experience as a designer, which is similar. It's like, if you're sitting there doing boring designs all day long, you want to jump off a building, but
Yeah.
you've got to entertain yourself as you get the assignment done. So
Yeah. No, I think, yeah, having to handle everything myself, the design, the production, everything, it makes it so that there's not a part of the process that I'm not thinking about. The um, probably the letterers I work with hate me more than anybody. You know,
no, interesting,
uh, you
because you're working on the design
I'm a
of lettering.
terrible, yeah, I'm terrible. I'm a terrible critic. It's like not of everything of myself, right? Like I want it to be a certain way, and so like that's to me that was the challenge of this era is like now I'm collaborating with artists, right, who are drawing it different than I'm describing it, or like choosing a different angle. And so I'm trying to figure out how to like adapt to that, or how do I describe things better, or then I'm questioning like, am I being too picky?
Yep.
With lettering, it's just like I hate all uppercase. I hate that comics is all uppercase. Like, look at every comic I've ever lettered, no uppercase, unless it was on purpose to look like an old comic, like
Yep.
like so it's like I can't. I'm still fighting that battle. I haven't won. And then uh page numbers. I want page numbers, and then that's another thing that a lot of comics don't have. And just sound effects. I have a big problem with sound effects if it's not the artist making them. It's um but yeah, I think about every part of it. And the
That's
problem
because you
is,
did every part.
yeah, and it's I learned to let go. Like this is the era where I kind of learned to let go a little bit, or it's helped me with my communication skills and talking with artists. It's like, hey, we all want to make the best possible thing, right? And so to me, part of being a good writer or collaborator is being open to the best ideas. So it's like, hey, here's my idea. Like, what do you think? And working with Matt on FOLKLORDS and stuff, he was such a great collaborator because it's like I got these ideas, but then he would draw and sketch things and come up with stuff, and it's like I'm not. It's not about an ego. It's not my ego, and it's not my. It has to be my idea. I want a comic where I pick it up. I'm like excited about it, and so if whoever has the best idea, let's have it. Like I want the best idea, and I working with editors and everything is the same thing. Like I worked with probably Warren. I've worked with him on more pages of comics than any other editor, and uh, I can't tell you how many times he's like got an idea for a change or something, and I was like, I'll totally that's my idea now. I'm credited with it because I'm the writer. But
Right.
you know what I mean? I feel kind of bad, but to me, that's just how I feel with working with artists and editors and publishers, and same with Eric and on FOLKLORDS and Grass Kings and everything. It was like my ears are always open because I want the best thing. I don't, and like if you're not open to the best ideas with your collaborators, then you're losing the best part of collaboration, which is like the parts being greater than, or whatever, the whole being greater than the parts.